Up until now, you've used code you wrote yourself or code that is part of a Node core module. However, the true power of modern development comes from tapping into NPM, Node Package Manager. This is the largest open source ecosystem of pre-written code packages in the world. When you're writing console applications, there are a number of NPM modules that help you build professional-grade text interfaces. We're going to use 3 of them: yargs, chalk, and gradient string. The first thing we need to do is to initialize NPM. So I will make sure that I'm in the right directory here in my demo directory, and then I will say npm init-y. That's going to spin up a package.json file very quickly, and you can choose to keep this and use common JS modules with traditional syntax for importing and exporting, or you can change it. I'm going to choose to change it and use the modern syntax, so I'll change type to module. For this particular demo, that's actually going to be a pretty important distinction because one of the libraries we're going to use, chalk, has 2 different versions, and the newest version, version 5, works only with modern ES modules. So if you choose to use common JS modules, you'll need to install chalk version 4.1.2 instead. Let's go back to our main file. We've taken care of this. Let's go ahead and install all 3 of these. So I'll open my terminal again and say npm install yargs, chalk, and gradient string. Just list all 3 just like that. And now that I've done that, if we go back and look at our package.json file again, we'll see that all 3 of those have been added to a dependency object, and it created the node modules folder and the package.json file, which are specific to my system. You'll notice that these are grayed out. That's because I've included them in my gitignore file at the base of my repository. This says any node modules anywhere or any package.lock.json file anywhere should be ignored and not included for staging with a git commit. And especially for node modules, that's really important because there can be thousands or even tens of thousands of files in there, and you don't want to have to push that to your GitHub repo. It should remain on your local machine only. Okay, so again, I'm working with ES modules, and I installed Chalk 5. Now that we've installed those, the next thing you want to do is to read documentation so that you know what each of these libraries is capable of. You can go to NPM and find documentation on yargs, chalk, and gradient string. So yargs is a library that helps you build interactive command line tools so that you can run your program and also pass in arguments at the same time. Chalk is a fun tool because it allows you to add color to your output in the console. And lastly, gradient string lets you take it even a step further and have gradients of colors for making your console output really pop. And each of these tells you exactly how to install it, how to use it, gives you different examples, tells you if there's certain things that are available for you to use right out of the box, and it goes into more advanced features. So you should be able to find most of what you need to know to make good use of these just by coming to this documentation and giving them a quick read. Now it's time to import each of these so that they can be used in this specific file. Now again, I'm using ES modules, which means I have the import keyword. We'll say import yargs from yargs. I'll import chalk from chalk. And I'll import gradient from gradient string. None of these need a relative path. As long as you just give the name of the module in quotes like this, JavaScript knows to look in the node modules folder here and find the correct dependency. So let's practice using gradient string first and create a fun, colorful header. Let's call this game title. And we'll call the gradient function that we imported here, pass in purple as the first color and cyan as the second color. This function call actually returns a function which we can then call and pass in a different argument. And this is where we actually say what the text is that we want to produce. So I'll say, welcome to Arcade Realms. Okay, now let's just print it and see what it looks like. And we see this colorful header here, starting with purple and ending with cyan. Now let's use yargs to grab a user argument when we go to run the file from the terminal. The idea is that we're going to be able to pass in the name of our hero, the player of the game, right when we enter the command to run the file. We need to do a little bit of configuration here. So I will say argv is going to be, and then we'll go to yargs, the library. And I'm going to pass something in here that's a little bit of a shortcut. It's called hideBin. We actually need to import it separately. So I'll come up here and add another line. And this one is part of an object. So we need to destructure it from the object and say hideBin. And then we'll go to yargs/helpers, because that is an object that stores a number of different helper functions, including hideBin, but this is the only one we need. Now that we've imported that, I'll be able to use it here. And all this really does is allow us to tap into our computer's system and then access the argv property. And that entire thing is going to be stored in a variable we created called argv. Now that we've configured that, we can create the variable we want to store the hero name in. And we can say that it's going to be argv.hero. So when we run this file, if we enter a hero name, it will grab it from the arguments and assign it to this variable. But what if we start the file and we forget to pass this in? We need to have a backup value. So we're also going to say, or you could assign unknown adventurer. Let's temporarily log this just so we can see the value of chosen hero name once it's been collected, or if the backup value has been assigned. Let's run it. To pass in the name, we'll say --hero equals Merlin. No quotes, and make sure that that equal sign is not surrounded by spaces. And we see Merlin come out when we log our chosen hero name. Let's try it again, but just run node main.js without passing in anything for the hero name. It says unknown adventurer. Okay, so we can see that our logic is working. It's definitely tapping into the arguments. And if we enter a hero argument, it assigns it. Otherwise, it assigns this. Now, instead of just console logging this, we're going to make it a little bit fancier. Let's use the chalk library. We'll log a statement that just says active player identity. And then inside the placeholder, I'm going to go to chalk, make it bold, and make it yellow. And then the text that we're going to color with chalk is chosen hero name. Let's run that. We'll pass in Merlin again for our hero. And it says active player identity, Merlin, and it's in bold and it's yellow. So chalk made it very easy for us to color that, make it look exactly the way we wanted it to look. The very last thing is that we just want to use chalk to color an entire message. So I can go to chalk, make it green, and then pass in my message. All terminal engine matrix pipelines are stable and online. Okay, all terminal engine matrix pipelines are stable and online, and the entire thing is in green. So you can have a lot of fun with these. You can make your interactive programs personalized by allowing someone to pass something in. And you can have multiple key value pairs like this if you set it up for multiple uses with argv. Now let's look at the practice. You have a file, app.js, and you're going to practice installing and importing both chalk and gradient, and then just follow the directions. You can choose to use CommonJS or ES modules to import chalk and gradient string, but I have a note up here that if you choose to use CommonJS, you need to use chalk at 4.1.2 when you do NPM install. That will make sure that you have a version of chalk that can work with CommonJS modules. That's all I've got. I will see you in the next one.